The Joe Show.
Woo!
All right, well, let's do this.
Let's do this thingy.
Actually, let's try this. So, hey, everybody, thanks for joining us for another edition of the Joe Show podcast. And I have my lovely, lovely co-host today. And who would that be?
Woohoo!
Well, who would that be?
Me.
Who's me?
Karen.
Karen. Yeah. We haven't done a podcast together in a long time, man.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, I hadn't done
Probably like,
what
was it 2020 or 2021?
The last podcast I did was with Liam, and that was over a year and a half ago. And you were on before that, so yeah, probably pushing 2 years. So we're trying something new. I don't know if you guys can hear it. We're actually in our car. And we thought, well, first of all, it's a beautiful day here today in Southern Ontario, and we didn't want to be stuck at in the office or in the little home studio or whatever. And so we said, hey, let's go for a drive. The scenery is beautiful right now in the fall time, and we'll grab a coffee and we'll just record in the car and see what happens. And so I wasn't 100% sure what direction we were going to go in terms of topics. So Karen, you have the notepad open with some of the show ideas that I had. And what stands out, if anything?
Well, it's probably something that happened just this past week for our denomination. Our district conference was this past week. And some of you may know, I have a really difficult time with traveling.
Yeah.
And for those of you that I've talked to personally, you know that my stomach doesn't always agree with me when I travel, and so I've been super, super nervous to even attempt to go like on long flights or...
Well, it's really limited your ability to go anywhere, because we always said, when the kids were older, that we would want to travel a little bit more together.
Right.
And then we got to that stage and your body went, nope.
Haven't been able to. And so, had a chat with the doctor, and the doctor said, because of all my stomach issues, you're anticipating this thing that's going to happen, and it may not even happen, but you're anticipating the fear of it
So like you're kind of in your head about it a
little bit. Yeah. And so I get nervous, and then my stomach goes, hang on a second, what's going on here? And so I haven't been able to travel to Liberia, but I have wanted to, like, really badly.
Yeah, and of course, it's something that I've wanted you to experience with me, because, I can go and have the greatest time and then try to come back and share it, and you'll be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. And, well, so at this conference, I had kind of gone into it. I was praying, and I'm like, okay, God, I need, like, a perfect stranger to... to speak to me about this.
See, now I didn't know about this though.
No, I hadn't said anything to you because I thought, you might try to make it happen.
So I didn't know about your little deal with God. You just kind of...
I had just kind of prayed going into it because, basically it's a time of spiritual kind of refreshing for ministers. And so I was going into that knowing, like, this is a time where ministers get ministered to, because often we're the ones doing all the ministering.
Right, yeah.
And so I was praying. I'm like, God, I need a peace basically to go on this, on a trip to Liberia because of all the stomach issues I've been having. And so Tuesday lunch, I guess we had all our global workers together.
Yeah. Now, global workers, that's what our denomination calls missionaries.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And we were just having lunch together, and there was a gentleman that we had met probably 3 years ago when we had last met, or been able to meet together. We haven't had a district conference in a while, and so he sits down at the table, and we get chatting a little bit, and they're in the Dominican Republic, and so after you've done eating, we just started to chat a little bit more, and I was interested in their story and how they got there and everything. And he was talking about how his wife was super, like, was she nervous, I guess, or maybe?
Was unsure. This was 20 years ago they did this, and the conversation took place at the end of the meal, and a lot of people had already left the room. And we just kind of lingered, and we were having a conversation, and he was saying how his wife was like, had reservations about going because it's a big change from Canada to the Dominican.
Well, so they decided to fast and pray for 30 days and seeking direction. And then he said his wife kind of sat up in the middle of the night and went, "It's not about my comfort, it's about my obedience."
Yeah.
And I nearly fell over. I think I actually physically leaned back and
You did.
Yeah. And
like
then
as if something had walloped you in the chest.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I started bawling because I was like,
Yeah.
that was kind of what I needed. Like, okay, God, it's not necessarily about my comfort. It's about my obedience. And what are you calling me to do?
Yeah. I'll never forget that moment. I'm looking over at you and I could see it happening.
Oh, it had such an impact. And I was floored, honestly, because that was kind of what I was, not what I was waiting for, but it was just sort of the confirmation of like, okay, Karen, get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Stop, like listening to all the fear that you have going on in your body right now. Like, and I may go and I may be completely afraid, but I'm like, do it scared.
Yeah. I mean, of course, it's something that I've, wanted from after that very first trip. I was like, oh, you gotta go. And everybody was like, when's Mama Karen coming? When's Mama Karen coming? I said, oh, one day. And you keep hoping. But I remember you said something when the missionary was talking about his wife, and you kind of had that that pullback moment, and you said, I've been waiting for like a word from God to release me. And then you said this, you said, I think I just got it.
Yeah.
And I had like shivers go through my body. I was like, I'm sorry, I just thought you said you got a sign from God and you're going to come to Liberia with me. And that's exactly what happened. And so now, building up to the conference, we had just been at a church service. We went to visit a church.
Yeah.
And the pastor preached, a very simple message, I mean, it was all about...
But do you ever find, sometimes the most simple messages are the ones that hit home the most and stick with you the longest, right?
Well, that's what Jesus did. He didn't give these big theological dissertations. It was always like, hey, the kingdom of heaven is like, I don't know, a farm. And he would just speak to the way they could, understand and relate to.
Right.
So we'd gone to the service. We'd only been there once before, kind of in a post-COVID world. You're like, hey, where do we go? And let's, kind of visit. And so we'd been away ministering for a bit. And then with some friends of ours, we decided to go back to the service. And he was talking about being grafted or being attached to the vine, like a branch is attached to a tree. And,
and I think what was most important about that sermon was about producing fruit.
Yeah.
And I know especially during this, crazy last couple of years, I don't feel like I've been producing fruit.
Yeah.
Maybe I have been and I don't know it, but it hasn't felt like it.
Yeah.
And so, we attended with our daughter's in-laws and went out for lunch afterwards.
Yeah, so to clarify, their son is married to our daughter.
Right.
And they're like our best friends. We love them.
Yeah.
It just so happened that our kids love each other, but we love them too.
And we just had this amazing conversation around the table, and we were all kind of like floored by the message and like, what is God doing in each of us? And
it was a great conversation.
Yeah. And it kind of spurred the whole thing on. Like, I think we're supposed to go, all four of us.
Yeah, well, because I'd mentioned it before about going to Liberia, and there's, just, hey, there wasn't anything there. And it was like, hey, we're glad you're going, we're happy to support you, but I don't think it's for us kind of thing. And that's fine, everybody's called to go. But I was mentioning to him, because he's such a gifted builder, and he's so good at that. I said, oh, we want to build like this area for livestock. We want to start raising animals to produce fruit in the community, or food, because we want it to be sustainable. And man, oh, it'd be awesome to have you there because you're so good at doing that. And he kind of cocked his head to his side, and I reckon it to like a puppy, you know. And they go, huh? Like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. And then we said, well, let's start praying about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so for the next couple of days, they knew that we were going away for this conference, and so the next couple of days we kept texting one another back and forth and
What's God saying?
What's God saying? Are you praying? What's God doing?
Yeah.
And so when we called them on the Tuesday night after all of that had happened. I mean, I think it just felt like this confirmation for all four of us to feel like, yeah, let's do this.
Well, I mean, we had said, so she said to you, so what are you thinking, Karen? And you're like, yeah, God gave me the green light. Like, I'm going. She's like, what? And then he goes, yeah, we're ready to go. Yeah. And, you know, next morning at 7 a.m. before the conference started, there we are in bed on my laptop, and we're, you know, we booked 4 tickets to go to Liberia.
Yeah.
And what was the initial, like, was it like, oh, wow, I'm doing this? Or we're like, what am I doing?
I think it
was, be honest.
Okay, so it was a combination.
Okay.
I was really excited, and then I kept kind of vacillating between the two of like really excited and really scared.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am excited. I'm nervous, but I just feel like now is the time.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when they called the next morning and she said, what have we done? You know, I'm like, oh, too late now. We've already booked the tickets and the visas are on the way. And it's actually really exciting because we already went and booked, you know, your appointment to go get your yellow fever, you know, vaccine and your anti-malaria pills. And they've done the same on their end. And it got me thinking about like how much we miss out in life because we're afraid.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I know that it's held me back from a lot of things.
Is it a personality thing, do you think? Because I've always been kind of willing to, let's try it.
It's funny, you've been the type that, you know, you jump in with both feet and don't look sometimes. Right. And I'm always the really cautious one. And so I think in that sense, we've kind of been like this great balance for one another. So I kind of like, you know, I hold you back from doing something absolutely crazy, whatever. Right. But then you also help me step outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah. But do you think it's like a personality thing? Like some people are just more prone to taking risk and, you know, they need someone alongside them to help balance them. And then somebody who's not prone to risk needs, you know, the risk taker who pushes them.
It could be. And I often find God gives you your balance in marriage a lot of times. Not every time, but there's a lot of times where I feel like we balance one another out. And just you help me to sort of step outside that comfort zone and do things that I maybe normally wouldn't do or...
That's true.
Yeah.
You know, in all of this, I just always find myself, by the way, you know, I'm reminding everybody, we are in the car and oh my goodness, we're just on these little side roads right now.
And it's
the
beautiful
colors.
Yeah.
That's one thing about Southern Ontario in the fall, the orange and the reds. Wow, really, really beautiful. It's kind of nice, you know, to talk and enjoy, you know, what's going on at the same time. For me, you know, saying yes to the call and to be open to going. I don't know. I don't even know if I can explain, Karen. I don't even know how to put it into words. It's like it's something that I've wanted now for these past 3 years, and you know, after 8 trips by myself, and after seeing everything that God has done and accomplished. And listen, I want people to know it's not like because you don't go, that you're not involved and that, you know, you haven't had a burden or a passion. You've been like 100% since day one, and we've not let go of this. But I just feel like this is a turning point for us, for our dear friends who are coming with us. And, you know, it's not a long episode, but I want to say to people who are listening, I want them to hear that, like, it's okay to step out of the comfort zone. It's okay to not have everything figured out, and and to know exactly how you're going to do. Hey, you might have a bad day, you might have all great days, I don't know, but
right.
I think the fact that you're even just willing to say yes and step out, I think that that's a turning point.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you're going down a highway and then, oh, get off at this turn off here. Oh, okay. And then it just takes you in a whole new direction in what you're supposed to do in life. And I'm really excited to see what God's going to do, you know, for you, for
same.
them,
Same.
and for the people that we're going to be, you know, meeting and ministering to. So
I'm looking forward to it.
yeah.
I feel like, you know, now that our kids are grown up and they're independent, and yeah, I just feel like now's the time, and wanting to step out and do more.
Okay, so somebody's listening to this, right? And, you know, they could be like Karen Amaral. You know, they love watching, you know, others excel, and, you know, they celebrate when people are doing well. But what if there's a Karen Amaral out there right now who's going, I don't know if I can do this thing. I don't know if I got it. What do you say?
This is going to sound so cheesy.
Mm-hmm.
Let God put his super on your natural.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because in the natural, I'm scared.
Mm-hmm.
But I know God's got something great.
Yeah. So, to anybody out there listening, let God put his super on your natural. Just be willing to say yes.
Yeah.
Don't worry if you don't have all the details in place. You know, don't be stupid, but be open to the leading of God's Spirit. Every good thing I've experienced, every victory I've had, anything you think that has been successful in my life, I'm talking both to you, babe, and to anybody who's listening, it all happened because I had to get out of my comfort zone.
Yeah. Well, I remember Jim said to you,
A dear friend,
a dear friend said to you, you have the power of saying yes.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I mean, I wrote a whole book about it, right? Getting off your ash, right? That ash, those things that, well, ash, right? It's all that's left after something is burned and everything is destroyed and it's gone, and you're sitting on, you know, on pain and embarrassment. Oh man, I tanked that business or that ministry or that relationship went south or whatever it is, and we're sitting on this pile of ash and we're so broken and hurt and lonely and afraid that I can't do this again. I mean, I don't want to add any more ash to this pile. But the book and kind of my motto for life is, I would rather fail spectacularly
Then not try.
than not try and wonder for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So friends, that's the message of the conversation today, is choosing obedience over comfort. Closing thoughts?
I think we've said it.
Yeah. Well, friends, I hope that you've been encouraged, challenged, in that something has been maybe activated or even reactivated in you. That whatever it is that you're praying about, that you're thinking about, that you're talking about, that you're dreaming about, that you would have the peace and the boldness to step out and do it. God bless you guys. Thanks so much for listening. The Joe Show.